औज़ुबिल्लाहि मिनश्शैतानिर्रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम सल्लल्लाहु अला हबीबिही सय्यदना व मौलाना मुहम्मद व आलिहि व सहबिहि व बारिक वसल्लम अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन अर्रहमानिर्रहीम मालिकि यौमिद्दीन इय्याका नअबुदु व इय्याका नस्तईन इहदिनस सिरातल मुस्तकीम सिरातल लज़ीना अनअमता अलैहिम गैरिल मग़दूबि अलैहिम वलद्दालीन आमीन सदक़ल्लाहुल अज़ीम। I welcome you all in our today's webinar on HR finance business partnering model, especially insights how finance can help more in business, how finance is more useful for business through business partner model. And we are lucky to have a very honorable guest speaker with us, Sayyid Zishan Parvez, who has very in-depth and practical experience of finance. He has worked at various high-level positions, senior-level positions in different organizations. We have also worked together in Coca-Cola. Zishan Saab was a senior in Coca-Cola in finance department, and I was working with HR and business technologies function over there. And once we request Sayyid Zishan Saab, then he can give his introduction in more detail. But before that, I want to give you a brief introduction about HR Legends Forum. HR Legends Forum is basically a forum in which we have human resources working in all facets of management. And we are taking initiatives for all departments by conducting different meetup activities, conferences, webinars. We have people from finance, from HR, from technology, from sales, and from different areas in our forum. During this COVID season, this pandemic, we arranged webinar on different topics, especially we defined 4 types of series of webinars. And the first series is related to business, in which we discuss topics related to different domains of business and how we can play our role by inviting guest speakers from different industry areas, different domains, who come here and share their experience and learning with all the participants of webinar. Then we have webinars related to social issues in which we discuss different social issues which are prevailing in our industry and in Pakistan and how we can solve them. Then we have third series in which we discuss the technology aspect, how technology can help organizations to grow further and move in the better direction. And now today we have this webinar related to finance, and I'm thankful to Syed Zishan and also to all the participants as well for joining us today. And with that, I request now Mr. Zishan Parvez to please come forward on the stage, and I will go back and I will hide my video and start the today's proceeding. Thank you, Zishan sir, for joining. Please.
Thank you, Ghulam Mustafa sahab. तो मैं अपनी screen, I will share my screen so that I can. Let me know, GM, if you can see the presentation, please. If you can confirm and you can hear me well, right?
जी बिल्कुल आपकी available है.
Chale, thank you very much. So Ghulam Mustafa sahab, thank you very much to HR Legend Forum for giving me this opportunity to talk about this topic of finance business partnering, which is a very happening topic and a very in topic for 21st century finance and going forward. The aim of this webinar is, of course, to provide an introduction about my background and what makes me, a subject matter expert on this topic. And it is also actually to introduce some of the key aspects of finance business partnering, and also talk about the upcoming training and workshop, which will actually go into a bit more detail into this topic. So I'll be planning this workshop with HR Legend Forum as a follow-up to this webinar session. In the interest of time, since we have 1 hour, if you have any comments, anything that you want to share, you can of course raise your hands and we can open the mic. But we will also have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, and you can jot down any key points that you want to, to ask or to clarify. I would also suggest that we make this an engaging webinar, which means it ought to be a two-way communication. There will be moments of reflection during my presentation where I'll be asking few questions, asking about your organizations and how they are approaching the finance business partnering area. So I would really like your participation to keep this a more engaging workshop. So with that, I move on to the next slide. So a bit about me, and so overall, I am a member of ACCA UK and ICAW, a chartered certified accountant and a chartered accountant from England and Wales. Um it's been a 20 years plus journey overall if I look at my career, and I've been very fortunate with the blessings of Allah and parents' prayers to have worked with the best multinationals in Pakistan. My last assignment was as a CFO with Maersk. Previously I had a 10-year stint with Coca-Cola, and I also looked at 3 years with Lafarge, and then started my career as a management trainee with Unilever. Uh, so what makes me a subject matter expert in this is the fact that throughout my career, I have been at the heart of the business planning of these organizations. So which means that I was a focal point between all the functions as well as the senior management, and looking into how to devise strategy vision for the organizations, looking into the capex plans, the rolling estimate cycle, and planning different initiatives. So that has been a very common underlying theme in my career, and that's why I'm very excited to talk about this topic. As a person, I instigate motivation and learning, with the people around me in my teams. I also align realistic expectations to drive people. Uh, I make sure that work is always fun at workplace, and in all the teams that I've led, I've made sure that engagement and work and fun was a very common part of the work itself. I enjoy learning and developing others, and I'm very fortunate that in whatever teams that I've worked with, all my team members are now enjoying senior positions in reputable organizations, and I'm very happy to have learned from them and to have contributed to their career in that. I value engagement, and I love to build teams. And when I say teams, I'm talking about high performance teams who deliver excellent results, both from finance standpoint and for the business strategies standpoint as well. On a lighter note, I love traveling. I believe that traveling really teaches you a lot of different cultures. It teaches you a lot of different practices. I read a lot, and they say readers are leaders, and I believe in that. And mentoring, making sure that there is always a helping hand towards others to make them grow in their careers. So finance business partnering, when I talk about this subject, we have to know that why this subject is getting more importance. And the key reason is that the organizations are moving away from the traditional activity based finance function to a more value centric digital function. So which means that the standard definition of value addition from finance in terms of set meetings, set analysis, is moving towards value addition. And here I would like a few reflections actually, that if you look at the column on the left side, which is blue, you will see that where the finance function is now moving from. So we are moving from more calendar based to event triggered finance function. We are now talking about finance function, which is more exception based, where we don't talk about routine things, where we talk about what are the key drivers which can improve your revenue or cut costs, and how is the environment changing the future of the organization. In my career, I've also looked into how to make the planning of the organizations dynamic. And the finance today, it's more about scenario planning. So leadership is not talking about one budget which they set in January and then they take it forward till December. No, leaders in the organization are now talking rolling estimates, which is your budget which gets updated every month to reflect the realities of how the things change. And we know, I mean, post-COVID, during COVID, and even pre-COVID, we know that the environment now has become very fast-paced. Thanks to technology, the customers, the suppliers, and the value chains are becoming very sophisticated now. And the finance has to be forward looking, right? So it's not only about interpreting results now, that which area did we not do right, or in which area did we not perform. It's far from it now. So when we explain any results to the leadership, to the board, we have to explain what went right, what went wrong, and what we are doing about it. So finance now has to be more forward looking. As individuals, as professionals, you cannot only explain results to people. You need to go with advice. You need to go with recommendations to the senior management, to your managers. Variance analysis, again, was a traditional way of looking at things. Now we talk about decision analysis, that if we take A decision, what are the consequences? If we take B decisions, what are the consequences, and so forth. So this slide actually shows you how finance is now transitioning. And I would say that this is not a new transition. I would say that the finance has been going through this transition. If I look at all the organizations that I've worked with in the last 15, 20 years, I mean, the journey started from there on. But now, as we move on, the organizations are focusing more on the right column, which is digitizing their operations and making finance more value centric rather than just a series of different activities. Another very interesting slide. If you look at this slide on the left side, it actually shows what are the expectations from finance function in 2020 and going forward. And I would like to draw your attention to three areas here. If you look at the one area, which is 31%, you will see that people, leadership, board members, they expect finance to bring forward commercial business opportunities. My question to you, how many commercial opportunities have you contributed to in your organization? Second area, 23%. Expectation from finance is that they bring forward real-time strategic insights. 14%, if you look at real-time strategic insights. So leadership and board and the management is not looking for historical analysis only. They are looking for how the historical analysis can contribute to better decision making for the future. And the third area, which is very important, is again the blue one: efficient cross-departmental business partnering. So by business partnering, how much finance is spending time beyond its own domain. So the expectations on the left side are very clear, that people want finance which is more commercial savvy. They want finance which is more value driven, who bring strategic insights, and a finance function who is not based only in finance, but they reach out to other functions. On the right side, a very interesting thing: what are CFOs investing these days in? CFOs are investing in digitization of finance function. And the top of the line, if you look at, it's a survey-based report analysis. If you look at the top bar chart, it shows that 50% of the investment, CFO's time, is going into data analytics. And data analytics is again not analysis. It is about managing big data. It is about analyzing trends. And I can share with you that in my experience as a CFO for Maersk and as a head of commercial finance for Coca-Cola, there has been intensive requirements for not only data, but insights from these data, that what do those data items show. So for example, we always talk about that 80-20 rule. What are those 20% customers contributing 80% of the revenue? What are those 20% product or SKUs adding 80% of the EBITDA or EBIT or profitability? So data analysis is one thing. Taking insights and using them to guide your future decision making is another thing. And as part of the multinationals that I've worked in, I can tell you all multinationals are heavily investing on the data analytics. They are now the talk of the town is Power BIs, pivot tables, and I can tell you in my experience as CFO for Maersk, there was hardly a time when we were doing Excel. I mean, we either had pivot data available or we had cubes. Cubes were again pre-loaded pivot tables, and then we had to draw different trends and analysis and share insights that which customers we've lost versus last year, which surcharge is lower or higher than the competition, which we can increase, where we can improve our D&D, where we can improve our revenue, where we can improve our pricing. We were all being led by those insights from that data. So this is very a clear slide which shows that what are the expectations from finance and expectations of other functions. And I would just like to mention to one of our HR participant in this webinar, my colleague from Coke, Khurram, that Khurram, if I look at the selling, general and admin expenses, which come below GP, and even if I talk about the production expenses, one of the key cost driver that the management always wants to look at is staff costs. And in my experience, staff cost always contribute around 50-60% of the total cost bucket that you have, right? So my reflection on this slide will be how much is finance business partner or how much is HR spending time with finance to identify how they can optimize the staff cost bucket. And what could be some of the suggestions, Khurram, some of the alternatives? It could be third-party workforce. It could be benchmarking your benefits. It could be bringing flexi workforce now. And we know that with COVID, there are many opportunities for flexible remote working now, right? So, but the question remains, the question is, A, do we have the data to analyze the performance in that cost bucket, say staff cost? B, what has it increased over the years? Has it decreased over the year? What is it as a percentage of revenue? Insights. And then based on these insights, we go to foresights, which is how we can rationalize the cost, how we can benchmark our staff cost, how we can look at third-party options and look at non-core operations and so forth. So, so finance business partnering is definitely the key when we talk about this. So before I go to the next slide, I will just like a bit of reflection or a question from the participants, that how do they feel? Do they agree with some of the key insights that I'm sharing as to how finance is moving, or what is their reflection when they deal with finance? Are they too much backward looking? Are they changing to forward view? Any participant, any suggestions before I move forward? So GM, do we have any raise hands where we can get input? Okay, so if we do not have any suggestions or any inputs, I can then move on. But please, in case that you want to speak on anything, or you want to share any experiences, please feel free to unmute your mic and share your experiences. Moving on.
So I can
Ji.
contribute a bit.
Ji, please,
My name
Kashif.
is Mohammad Kashif.
Ji,
Right.
Kashif.
I'm a member of ICMAP, and
Right.
also I'm a business intelligence expert.
Right.
So I really agree with all the things which you are saying, and I am implementing the solutions of business intelligence in the organization. So I resonate all the things which we have come across on finance, on sales. So how data analytics, not analysis, but data analytics is taken the business on storm. So I totally agree with all
Yeah.
your discussions. That's
Great.
great.
Thanks,
Thank
Kashif.
you. Thank you for
Nice to
sharing.
hear from you. Thanks, Kashif. Nice to hear
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
We really appreciate Kashif for taking courage to speak up. I will look forward to other participants as well. Moving on. So the question now is, what is the finance business partnering? And what are the key dimensions of finance business partnering? So there are 5 dimensions I've listed in, and I will go to each dimension and talk a bit about it. And when I talk a bit about each dimension, again, I will request that please do share your experiences when I ask a question, because it's going to be very interesting to make this a two-way and a more engaging workshop. So the first element is finance business partnership, the concept and its evolution. So as I was talking about the finance business transformation or the finance function transformation, it's not a new concept. Maybe it has been accelerated a lot, I would say, in the last 5-10 years, but that transformation has started really from late 90s or early 2000 year, if I talk about. And the transformation journey has been actually fueled, I will say, by the automation. And when I say automation or digitalization, let's talk about some of the key concepts that have happened, which is leading to this finance business partnership concept. First of all, during my stint in Coke and also with Maersk, a lot of payments, payables, account receivables, and reporting activities are being offshored. And when I was in Coke, what we did was that there used to be separate account payable, account receivable person sitting into each location. We brought them all up in one location, and then they actually started sharing transactions of different territories. So we were able to pool the resources and make them more efficient and they were able to handle large volumes of data. Similarly, I can share with Maersk that Maersk is also has a finance function which has offshored its account receivables, account payables, and reporting. So, which means that on-site finance, on the frontline finance, now has more time to look into the business that they had before. Why? Because with these transaction-based functions are offshored, frontline resources can look at what the business is doing, and they can partner with other functions to take the business strategy forward. So the offshoring of the transaction-based activities in finance has really paved the way for finance business partnership. And before I go forward, I would like to ask the participants if they want to share any insights from their organizations as to what transformation they have seen or what transformation they have led. Any participant, if they want to share any experience or. Okay, so we'll keep on waiting. If there are any additions or any participants want to share, we'll see that. Now, the second thing, which is very important in the finance business partnership concept is understanding the business. So in finance, you cannot contribute to the business if you do not understand the business. And when I say understand the business, what we need to look at is what are the key drivers of the business and derailers. And here I talk about that 80-20 rule, right? We need to look at, for example, in my roles in finance as a CFO, as a head of commercial finance, I would always update the senior management and the board as to what are those 20% SKUs which are contributing 80% of the profitability or revenue. I would talk about those 20% customers which are contributing 80% of the revenue. So till you understand the key drivers of the business, you can never be a successful finance business partner. Another dimension of finance business partnership is understanding your stakeholders. So, the finance business partnership is all about understanding the pain points of your stakeholders. So, for example, as a finance business partner, a lot of times my managing director, she came to me and she said, Zishan, I don't have visibility in these areas. What do we do about it? And I worked with the team and we prepared few dashboards on some of the things that she wanted to look at. And we made it a very auto dashboard, right? That every Monday, a certain performance dashboard will be circulated to the senior management and they will just view the ongoing business. And if there is any exception, I mean, the senior management, the leadership team, managing director can always get back to me for more details. Similarly, if I talk about, for example, HR, the pain points of HR, in my experience, the pain points of HR has always been preparing HR budgets, calculating variances of budgets, that where is the positive or negative variance coming from? Is it because we've hired expensive people? Is it because we've delayed people hiring? And how do the things look up? So pain points will always come from the functions or your stakeholders, but we need to talk to them. So that's why I request all the finance professionals on this webinar that talking to your stakeholders and identifying their pain points is very crucial for the finance business partnership concept. Third thing under the first heading is the FBP journey. And the important thing to understand is like there are three segments in an FBP journey. First segment is data. Second segment is insights. And third segment is foresight. Data is data analysis. Insights is doing some trends and preparing some insights from that data. And foresight is using those insights to prepare some recommendations for the senior management, for the board, for your management or your functions. Now, my moment of reflection or question on this webinar now to the participants is, and perhaps Kashif was talking, maybe Kashif can contribute. What do you think in your organizations, in your role, what is the percentage that you are spending time on in each area? So data, insights, and foresights. So let's have a quick round from the participants, and then I'll share you what my experience is. Okay, so we do not have any participants sharing. So I'll share with you. My experience has been that 50 to 60% of time, finance business partners are spending on data analysis. 30% is being spent on the insights, and only 10% is being spent on recommendation and foresights. So, and while I say that, I am talking about the really, top performing multinationals, the global brands that have really changed the world. So you can very well imagine that where are we on this journey as an FBP. So what we need to do is to change the equation and make the foresight more heavier portion of the three segments. So rather than spending 60% time on data, we need to spend 60% time on foresights or recommendations to the business. Only then we can be real good finance business partners. So that was a bit on the concept and the evolution. Second framework of the FBP or the finance business partnership framework. So framework, the things that this depends on, of course, is one, understanding the concept. Second, right conversations at all levels are very critical for making the finance business partnership concept work well. So when I say conversations, it is about, say, spending 40 or 50% of your time as an FBP or as a finance professional outside finance. So I have a question and a reflection here. How many of us in finance leave finance and talk to other functions? And even if we do, is it about the business? And how much during the day? So as a CFO, when I was handling the finance business partnership function, we then made sure that all the FBPs, they were sitting with their respective business functions. So for example, an FBP product was sitting with the product side. FBP commercial was sitting with the sales. They were not sitting in finance. So this is very important that we have right conversations and the FBPs have the right conversations at all levels. And the third point in the framework is, again, like I shared previously, what is the time that you're spending on the data, insights, and foresights? So the higher amount of time we spend on the foresights, the better value we will create for the business, because we will be giving recommendations about the future to the management, to the board, and this is what we want to get into. Fourth is reporting frameworks. So reporting, what kind of reporting is it taking place? So as a successful finance business partner, this model will not work if you do not have structured, insightful formats. And today I can share with you that, the traditional reports are not that successful. These days we have dashboard concept. We use Power BI for the dashboards. We can have dashboards on PowerPoint. We can have dashboards on Excel. So dashboards give key information to senior management in a flash. So this is very important. And the last element I want to cover in the framework is the structure of the meetings. So another reflection for the participants here is, how do they go and approach the meeting? So for example, say if I'm a finance business partner and I want to discuss something about salaries or staff with the HR, do I just go randomly and talk to them? Do I have a set routine every week, every 2 weeks? And do I prepare myself for the meeting with each function? Or do I go randomly and talk to them? And do I go and I even have an outcome of the meeting? So structure of the meetings with the business stakeholders is key to effective business partnering. Otherwise, you will not be able to know their pain points. You will not be able to areas you can contribute to, and you will not be able to identify areas where you can improve on. So that's very important. So this was about the framework for the finance business partnership. Moving to the third point, people. So finance business partnership is all about conversations. It is all about rightful interactions. And people, good, effective people interactions are at the heart of finance business partnering. And I'll share with you some of the key things. So when we talk to other functions, are we listening or are we actively listening? There's a difference between both. Active listening means looking for the pain points. Listening means just randomly listening. And do we talk about symptoms or do we identify the root causes? So these are some of the things. And another aspect to look at is, are people in finance or a finance business partner, do they have analytical approach? Do they have the right diagnostic approach towards the business? So rest assured, if we do not have the right people and competencies in the team, finance business partnership will just be a concept, and finance will not be able to add value to the organization. Why? Because either your finance business partners will not be actively listening, either they will not have empathy, or they will not be able to identify the pain points from the interactions that they do. So having the right people in your team and building the right competencies and skill set for your people in finance is very important. And I think this is one area which sometimes lack, where we just we believe that our finance team will just upgrade their skills on the job, and companies do not focus on training of the people. So I think training of people, identifying the gaps is very important. I'm sure Khurram, we have Khurram from HR. Khurram, if you want to add on this point, people. Okay, so I think Khurram may not be able to contribute. Moving on, the fourth dimension of the FBP is about systems. So we have Khurram.
Sir,
we have...
sorry, I missed
no problem.
I missed
So
the
Khurram,
conversation.
No problem. So Khurram, I was just talking about how people and their skill set is important for this finance business partnership. I just wanted to get your input on that point.
Definitely, sir. This is a very important aspect, and but post-COVID, it's getting difficult. There are certain constraints related to budget, and I mean, usually in different organization, training section is I mean on halt.
Right, right. But anyhow, I think Khurram acknowledges the fact that building people competencies and skill set is very important. I think this is something that we need to focus on. Fourth element in finance business partnership is having the right systems. So what do I mean by systems? So for systems, it's very important that we have not only tools for gathering data. For example, we have the ERPs which gather data. We have SAP, we have Oracle Financials. Then we have few tools which sit on these systems and gather data for insights. For example, in Maersk, we had Cubes, we had Power BI, business intelligence or data warehousing tools, right? Which actually extract the data and prepare them. We can use them to prepare insights. I mean, analytical tools are very critical for finance business partnership. If we do not have analytical tools, insights preparation through Power BIs and analytical tools in the organization, we will not be able to support finance business partnership. Another thing that I've again looked is having the right operating system. So for example, just an example, how many of us in finance have scheduled meetings with sales, with HR, with production or manufacturing? And again, like I said, if we have those meetings, what are those meetings? Are they pre-planned? Do we have a pre-planned outcome from those meetings? How do we actually approach those meetings? So having the right operating system, digital tools, are again fundamental to the concept of finance business partnership, because if you only have data and we are not able to transform that data into any kind of insights for the revenue, for the cost, if we cannot talk about any recommendations, and if we cannot put forward any decision points to the management, to the board, then we will not be able to support the finance business partnership concept. The fifth element of finance business partnership framework is P&L focus. So, as we say this famous saying in finance that everything starts and ends with money or with dollars. The real check that we have whether an organization is having a successful finance business partnership function in finance or not is what increase or what percentage increase or what dollar value of GP, EBIT, EBITDA is finance contributing to. And a lot of you would be very much surprised that how can finance contribute to the profitability because they don't generate revenue. And that's where the difference in mindset is required. Under the finance business partnership, we see finance as a profit center and not as a cost center, which means that finance will help the organization bring revenue. They will help bring new leads to the business. They will help identify areas where you can cut cost so that finance will be actively contributing to the profitability of the company. And I can share with you my experience as a CFO with Maersk and my earlier experiences with Coke as head of commercial finance. I can share with you there were a lot of times when I can proudly say that I brought X dollar additional revenue by identifying customers which were doing business with us last year, but they were not doing now. And I shared that information with sales, and I went to the sales meeting and we got those customers on board. I can tell I look into various CapEx projects where we invested money. I asked sales to invest money and we got very good ROI, return on investment, from those projects. I can share with you that I helped organizations identify those SKUs which were bleeding money, and we stopped those SKUs. We stopped producing those SKUs and I helped the profitability. So reflection for each one of us on this workshop is how much you're spending 8 hours in finance. And if you are in the commercial finance, if you're in the business planning, if you're in the finance business partnership, on monthly basis, quarterly basis, annually, what contribution in profitability are you responsible for? And if the answer is no or zero, then I think that's a very fair reflection that we are not being true finance business partner, but we are just an ordinary finance professional. A successful finance business partnership will have a list of 5 or 10 activities which he identified and recommended to the management and the board, and which resulted in X percentage increase in revenue, Y percentage reduction in cost. That is a successful business partner from my perspective. Any question, any reflections up till now before I move on to the last slide?
जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम ज़ीशान साहब
जी
Uwais है
जी Wes, thanks for joining, Uwais.
so always no problem always a pleasure listening to you we
Thanks.
have worked together obviously but and I think the topic that you're discussing right now is very very close to your heart and I think ये आपका पोटे रहा है so a couple of questions really also for the benefit of the audience.
Ji.
I think one would be for finance a key function along with driving business as you're saying with finance business partnership is also on the control side, right? How do you then balance off both these, because one is on the going after doing everything one can usually that is what we see how the commercial teams are used to operating, but how do you then find that balance between control and compliance and then chasing business? And number
Right.
two would be,
Yeah.
you also talked about developing that commercial mindset, and then accordingly bringing those insights and then converting those into foresights. How do you develop your team to have that kind of an attitude, to have that kind of a mindset, and then how do you measure them? I think those would be a couple of questions from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Wes. Really glad to have you on board. Wes was my colleague in Maersk. He's the head of product and marketing, and a brilliant colleague to work with. I've learned a lot from him. So, Wes, first to your question about the balance between control and value addition. So I would say that again, as finance, as CFO, as head of finance, I think you need to be accountable, and you need to also be responsible for the stewardship function of the company, which means that you need to make sure the controls are not compromised in any way. And then of course, and I've tread this balance a lot of time, where I had to sort of balance between uh, value addition and control. So I think I can only suggest that no, finance business partnering does not mean that you stop foregoing controls because your managing director wants to start a project early, or because your managing director or your managers are pushing for a project. But I think you can always come up with your concerns on the controls, but not only come with concerns, but also share recommendations. So I think where we fail as finance is where we identify where controls are lacking, but where we are not forthcoming in giving solutions to them, right? Because business functions and commercial functions, they will not be privy to how you manage controls. So I think you identify concerns, but you also give them solutions to control those concerns. So I think this is my answer to the first one. And the second one, how to actually have the right mindset. So and that's a very good question, right? So I think as a manager, as a lead manager, OS, what I started doing was to give more ownership to your team members, and also actually advising them as to what kind of daily, weekly, or monthly routines they should get into. As leaders, as managers, I think we need to influence what time our individual team members spend time on. So this is very important. And the second thing is, I think as a manager, how you interact with your team. So whenever they come up with something, I think a very fundamental question a manager asks should be, okay, you've brought this analysis, but where are the insights? And what is your recommendation? And if they don't, if they're silent on both these aspects, you send them back till they start coming not only with what has gone wrong or right, but also with very solid recommendations. So I think these are two things, Wes, that I will suggest that it's something I worked on. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Zishan.
Thanks, Wes. Thanks for the participation. Moving on to the next, we have 6 minutes to go, so I'll just move on to the next slide quickly before I take any questions. So where do we go from now? So as I shared at the start of this presentation, that I wanted to share a very brief overview of what finance business partnering is and what it entails. As an expert on the topic, I want to build this going forward and plan a workshop on the finance business partnering. And the purpose of this workshop will be to actually go deeper into the techniques and tools into different areas of finance business partnering, so I can equip the participants, and I can equip my fellow colleagues with how to become a successful business partner, and also actually to share some of my experiences and case studies with them. So in the workshop, I will be focusing on 5 things. Of course, I will go a bit deeper on the business partnering. I will share more techniques and tools which actually underpin the business partnering concept. I will share practical examples and case studies with the participants to tell them actually what were the key learnings, what were the examples and key learnings for being an effective finance business partner. Collaboration, like I said, is at the heart of the finance business partnering, which means having the right conversations with other functions. Again, I will share some techniques and tools that each participants can use for this. Building competencies. I briefly touched on this with and Khurram participated from HR side. Having the right skills and doing the gap analysis of your team, and then ensuring that you have learning tools available for them. So I will go a bit deeper on this as well, that how you can develop your finance team and your broad functional teams so that the finance business partnership concept actually is more organizational rather than only one function based. And last but not the least, I will also talk about change management and the techniques which finance managers, CFOs, and functional managers can use to bring a cultural change, right? Because like OS pointed out, it's about changing the mindset. It's about changing the way that you think in a particular day, in a particular moment. So what are the change management techniques and tools which we can utilize? So I'll be working on this, and I'm sure that I will, will be sharing. You'll hear more about this upcoming workshop from me and from HR Legends, and I look forward to active participation from each one of you, and I also hope that you'll be able to benefit from some of the experiences that I've had during my 20-odd years tenure. So that brings me to the end of the webinar. We still have 3 minutes, or maybe perhaps 1 or 2 minutes more. I leave the platform to the participants, to Ghulam Mustafa Saab. Any questions, any clarifications that I need to talk about, please feel free to ask me.
अच्छा, कुछ क्वेश्चंस आए हुए हैं हमारे पास
जी जी
निशान साहब
जी सर.
पहला क्वेश्चन है फैसल कबीर साहब की तरफ से कि वो कहते हैं कि हाउ वी कैन मेक फाइनेंस मोर पार्टनर विद सप्लाई चेन एंड इन सच क्रिटिकल डेज वेयर कंपनीज ट्रेजरी डिपार्टमेंट इज अंडर प्रेशर ड्यू टू डॉलर रेट.
राइट. सो एक तो फैसल, थैंक्स फॉर द क्वेश्चन. एक तो मेरे ख्याल वो पार्टनरशिप में मैं वही बात करूंगा कि I believe कि कई दफा ना vacuum, there is a vacuum between finance and supply chain, and I've been responsible for those vacuums myself at one time, right? Which is that we don't talk, or we don't have the right conversations with them. So for example, talking to supply chain about their stock levels, about their manufacturing capacities, and what lines are available and what lines are going on maintenance. I mean, these conversations from FBPs could be the right conversations and can aid the business. Second, आपने बात की treasury की और dollar value की. So Faisal, deval remains a big issue for companies like for countries like Pakistan. We've had 40% or above deval in the last couple of years, and that has really drained money. I think here the important thing will be, or the important question will be, how much of that deval can you pass on to your customers as a price increase, or B, can you hedge? Because State Bank does not, unfortunately, State Bank does not allow any US dollar based hedging in Pakistan. So the only option is that if we can sort of bench our pricing to the dollar or create some sort of parity to avoid that loss. जी सर.
दूसरा क्वेश्चन सर आया हुआ है फैसल कबीर साहब की तरफ से ही है, सॉरी मोहम्मद खुरम साहब की तरफ से. वो कहते हैं कि हाउ टू नेगोशिएट विद फाइनेंस पीपल ऑन बजट कॉन्स्टेंट्स.
Okay, so so Khurram, I think here one thing which is very important for a finance business partner is having the right empathy. Because I've seen and I've myself trained myself as well to be more empathetic with other functions. So I think what we can say is that although finance will try to cut down the budget, they will try to cut down the increments, but I think again, if you can work with them some business rationale of the increase or decrease, that can really help support your business budget going forward. So I think I've helped my HR counterparts to prepare the budgets which were more sellable. So I think that's something which an effective FBP can do, and you can team up with the FBP to present the right story, right, where your budgets get approved.
तो लेकिन मेरे ख्याल से ये जो है ना, ये जरा एचआर के एंगल से पूछ रहे हैं, मैं भी इसमें जरा इंटरेस्टेड हूँ
जी जी
कि
जी
मैं एज एन एचआर पर्सन गया फाइनेंस के पास, तो फाइनेंस बाज का बजट को कट लगा रहे होते हैं, तो बजट
राइट
कांस्टेंट फाइनेंस की तरफ से आ रहे होते हैं, तो
जी
हम फाइनेंस वाले लोगों को कैसे हैंडल करें, उनके साथ कैसे निगोशिएट करें ताकि जो बजट कॉन्स्टेंट्स हैं उनको हम ओवरकम कर सकें।
So GM, here I'll share my experience. So,
जी
you know, a lot of times when finance comes and says that they want a cut on your budget, right? I've seen HR people backing off and not giving any rationale. And that's where finance gets on top, right? So what I'm saying is, as an HR function, if you can debate your budget and you have the right assumptions under each, you will be able to convince your finance counterpart. At least that's what I've asked my HR counterparts to do, and they've been successful in doing that.
जबरदस्त। नहीं वो कोई अगर मेरे जैसा आपको एचआर वाला मिला होता तो शायद फिर सिचुएशन ये ना होती। फिर हम शायद डिटेल में डिस्कस कर लेते हैं। तो ये अच्छा सवाल। अच्छा जी, नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन है फैसल साहब का। कहते हैं, व्हाट डू यू थिंक न्यू फेस ऑफ फाइनेंस डिपार्टमेंट वेयर कंपनीज आर सेल्स ओरिएंटेड, द सेल्स ओरिएंटेड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में व्हाट इज द न्यू फेस ऑफ फाइनेंस डिपार्टमेंट?
So in a sales oriented Faisal, again a very good question. The face of finance will be commercial, right? And that's why I'm saying that in a commercial oriented organizations, finance business partners should not sit in finance, they should sit in commercial. Leads are generated and how the business is won. It's very important for them to understand that.
जबरदस्त, एक्सीलेंट। अच्छा जी, अब हमारे क्वेश्चंस तो खत्म हो गए हैं। अब आप चाहें तो जरा फुल स्क्रीन पर आ सकते हैं जिशान साहब, आप यू कैन स्टॉप शेयरिंग योर स्क्रीन। तो हम लोग जरा ओपन डायलॉग कर लेते हैं लोगों के साथ। इफ एवरीबडी कैन कम ऑन कैमरा एंड वुड लाइक टू से, वी कैन हैव जो कंक्लूडिंग रिमार्क्स और एंड करते हैं अपनी डिस्कशन को। वी हैव 5 minutes to for this and then we are gonna close it. So everyone would like to say anything, any comments, any question, anything. Your mics are open, your cameras are open, so you can come on stage and share anything, and you can say anything to Ishansa or to me or to us.
Hello, assalamu alaikum. Guys, can you hear me?
Ji, assalamu alaikum, Adil. Thanks for
No, Zishan. Actually,
good to see you.
We owe thanks to you first of all, and I think a great, I would say, like session so far. I mean, I have enjoyed it, and I think it was a great enlightening session for me. I mean, to be frank with you, just have like a comment and comment come question actually. I mean, the way you want to take it. Especially in terms of like people management. I mean, you talked about like business planning, feasibility, like, commercial finance, all those things. So these all areas, I mean, they are like very dynamic. I mean, and the more dynamic the business is, I mean, the more dynamic the need becomes actually. I mean, the people who are dealing with this function, I mean, they need to be, you can say, on their toes, right? I mean, it's kind of, I mean, it takes a toll on the people as well. And you have experienced that actually. I mean, you have been in these roles before. So I just want to like ask you, like, based on your experience, I mean, what do you think, how to keep the people motivated, I mean, in these situations? And because the team is the key. I mean, like the delivery and the synchronization of the team which is working on these things is very important. So when the going becomes tough, I mean, so how do you keep your people motivated, and especially in the current situation, like when the things are not normal the way it used to be, like in before the corona times, like and before the pandemic, because like now the physical proximity is now even more difficult at times in some of the organizations, right? So people are working remotely and distantly. So how do you keep the people factor intact actually? I mean, so that's my question in this time. It touched the HR angle as well, it touched the finance angle as well, like, I mean, so just like to hear your comment on that.
Thanks. Thanks, Adil. First of all, thanks for having you. Really good to see you.
My pleasure.
And hope everything is well on your side. So I think that's a very pertinent, Adil, that's a very pertinent question. And I'll share a practical example here that with Maersk, right when the COVID started, we went on 100% work from home mode, which means that we went on work from home from April. So, and another interesting thing is that, in all the multinationals, we know that they have some sort of a tools or surveys which take place, which actually measure the engagement of the people. And Maersk is again one organization which takes people really closely and really focuses on them. And we have an engagement survey of the employees twice a year. So you can imagine the focus on that. So very rightly said, it was a very big challenge for us, right? And I can tell you initially, because everyone was feeling empathetic, so we saw that the engagement improved. Why? Because when we came on the cameras, the first thing that you would ask will be, is everyone okay? How is your family doing? I mean, these are two questions a manager will never ask in a normal physical based interactions. But we started becoming a bit more humane during the COVID period. But as it is panning out, so I think one thing which is important, Adil, is I would say empathy, and also having the pulse of your people is very key. So I think as a managers, I've managed team, you are also looking into big teams. So I think as a manager, you can always feel the pulse. And when you think that the going is getting tough, I think that is when the leader has to come in and make it a bit relaxing, either through less hectic routines, or through some team buildings, or through some humor, some fun, and some, something else. Another thing I think which I've learned, and I think we were colleagues, and something I learned from you as well was, you can take a view of engagement as something to work on, or you can make you can make work more engaging. So I think as a manager, how you manage your team in a relaxed manner, where they don't feel that pressure of work. They are working, they have the pressure, but they don't feel it. I think that's up to us as leaders and managers to actually make it more relaxing for the employees, so they don't feel that pressure, and to take the plug when they think the pressure is going really high. Hope that answers the question.
No, perfectly fine, Tishan. I think that exactly. I think that you pointed the right thing. That's great.
Thanks, Adil.
Excellently. So I think we don't have any other question, or if somebody wants to say something, Kashif Saab.
Well, I really like to thank Ghulam Saab and Zishan Saab. It's a very enlightening discussion. The term definitely is floating around, and we keep hearing about this term quite a long time. But it was kind of an interaction with me that, and one of the part which I'm working on analytics. So the thing which the Shansa was saying was 100% correct. I used to work with clients on those things, tend to give them insights, and I love the aha moments when they see, oh, we have these things in our data. So that caught my face very much. So hats off to both of you, and very, very good discussion. And the aha moment, you should face at those aha moments. So and I also like these things as well. So great work for both of you.
Thanks, Kashif, and really, I will remember the aha moment word from this webinar, because you're really correct that as a finance business partner, when you really, win a business case, or you win a customer, or you win a client, or you help cut costs somewhere, I mean, that's the real aha moment of a good, successful finance business partner.
And I got this stuff from Ben Hardy. The book, he has a very famous book, Compound Effect. So I really like this stuff.
Thanks for contributing, Kashif. Appreciate it.
So time to say goodbye to each other now. So thank you very much everyone for joining us. इंशाल्लाह ज़िशान साहब के साथ एक सीरीज ऑफ वेबिनार इंशाल्लाह हम लोग लॉन्च कर रहे हैं ऑन बिजनेस पार्टनरिंग मॉडल, और उसमें इट वुड बी अ ग्रेट लर्निंग डेवलपमेंट एंड फ्यूचर ओरिएंटेड अप्रोच. आप लोग उसको अगर अडॉप्ट करेंगे, हमें ज्वाइन करेंगे, तो इट वुड बी बेनिफिशियल फॉर एवरी वन ऑफ अस इंशाल्लाह. तो उसके बारे में आप लोगों को अपडेट्स इंशाल्लाह मिलती रहेंगी.
Thank you, Ghulam Mustafa Sahab, for giving this opportunity, and I'm really thankful to all the participants for sparing time, and I hope that they found the session useful, and looking forward to connect soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you Kashif sir. Thank you. Thanks everyone. तस्वीरें नजर आ रही हैं उन सबको भी थैंक यू. अल्लाह हाफिज.
Thank you.